Yeah, YouTubers, Tazman here, bringing you another episode of Taz Teaches Java. And in our last episode, we kind of really quickly we were able to whip out a dice rolling game, which, well, I guess it wasn't really a game, but it was a kind of a framework for a dice game where you could have any kind of dice you want, and you had a dice cup that would let you have as many dice as you want. We're going to kind of do the same thing this episode. This one probably won't be quite as quick as that one because it's a bit more complex. But what we're going to do in this one, I think we're going to do a kind of generic card game. So, and not necessarily, maybe card framework would be better. So it's basically going to be setting up so that we have cards, and we have, I mean, if you think about it, so objects we would need is obviously cards for a card game, right? We'd probably also need a deck of cards, so we'd need a thing that held multiple cards and that were kind of random, that could be reset and all that fun stuff. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna, maybe we'll just call it I'm just gonna call it card game, even though it's not specifically a card game that we're doing. Maybe we'll kind of morph this into, at the end we'll morph it into one of the most common card games, or most simple card games out there, which is War, where you deal out a deck to two people and then you just flip over one card at a time, and the highest card wins. When the other person runs out of cards, then the game's over. Person with the most card wins, kind of thing. So let's just call this card game because it's kind of a generic. It's not a specific. Oh, whoops, we don't want. This is the package, so we want it to be lowercase there. So there we go. There's our card game package. Now let's go ahead and we'll create a class. So like I was saying, we probably want one that's going to be for a card, a single card object. And then we're probably also going to want maybe like a deck of cards. So let's do a new. We have a deck, and let's see. We'll probably want to keep track of players later on. So let's go ahead and create a player class for our player objects. We'll figure out how to integrate all this stuff together. And then, of course, we would have our main, but I'm not going to do that. So let's jump right into card here. We'll go ahead and even close these guys. Now let's think about what attributes or what things describe a card. So I would say first you have your suit, right? Or you have the value of the card. So let's set up those. Let's go ahead and say we have a string for value. Now, the reason, I mean, you can think of, you have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, which are numeric values, right? But you also have ace, jack, queen, and king, which are not numeric values directly. So, so we're setting this up as a string, and we're going to call this value. And then I already said the other one. We also have string. We have a string, and we have the suit, right? Now, these would be the friendly things that are output to the user. This would be, for example, the king of hearts, right? However, the computer can't say, okay, well, a king is higher than a 2, or a 2 is lower than a string value of a 2 is lower or higher than an ace, right? So if we say ace, since it can be 1 or 14, we don't have any way of telling the computer that this is how it is without just doing a ton of code. So a real quick way of doing this that might be a little easier is if we create two ints, and maybe we'll call this the weight. So we'll do maybe like val weight for value weight. Or should we, let's just do value. So value, W-E-I-G-H-T. So we have our value weight, which is an integer. And then in some games, such as Uno. There's one called, I don't know if you've heard of it, called Wizard, or games where you have a trump card where like spades are trumps or hearts are trumps. Those have a higher value than the other suits. So suits can actually have a value. So I'm going to create another one maybe for suit value. Suit and weight, actually. So there's our weight of our suits and our weight of that. So I think this is all the actual components we need for describing a card. I mean, who cares what the face looks like, you know, what picture is and stuff like that. If we were doing a graphic game, which we will be doing later on, we'll be getting into graphics and stuff. But I wanted to get good at this stuff first and understanding this before you throw in the whole layer of graphics. So let's go ahead. We need to do public and card. So we're creating a constructor here. And what this will receive will be probably just the value, the weights, the value weight and the suit weight. So let's go ahead and say int value weight and int whatever that was, int SUITWIGHT, right? Did I spell all that right? I think so. So now that we have these, let's go ahead and say that let's go ahead and assign our values up here, the values that are passed. So this would be this dot value, or no, value weight equals value weight, and this this dot suit weight equals suit weight, just like that. So that's those. Now we're going to have a special case. So our suit weight is going to be passed as a value because we're going to have a for loop in our deck where we're generating the cards. Because there are 4 suits, that means there needs to be 4 weights. Now remember that generally when creating an array or something like that, it starts with 0. So what we're going to do is maybe have 0 be 1, 2, well, so we'll have 0, 1, 2, and 3 be the values that can be passed as suit weight. So what we're going to probably want to do is have some kind of method down here that will be called maybe set. Let's make it private. Oh, we didn't do privates on our upper pieces up there. PRIVATE. I always forget that. We don't want these to be defaults. PRIVATE. 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 And PRIVATE. So we're setting this private because we only want it to be accessed by this class itself. And oh, I'm in the wrong. No, I'm not in the wrong. I was like, oh no, I'm in the wrong class. We're in card. So we only want to access by this class itself. So it's private because once a card is created, we don't want to change what the suit weight, what the suit is, what the value is. So these are gonna be private things. However, we will want public methods that actually are for getting these values. So get the suit weight, get the value weight, get the suit, and get the value. Because that's how the game is going to know what each card's value and suit is. So let's go ahead and let's see. So we're going to call this public. It's not going to return anything, and it doesn't need to receive anything because we just set these up here. So these are your local variables. We've now put them into the class variables, and we'll be able to access those directly. So we can just call this set, and let's call it, which one was I doing first? Suit. How about SUITE? Suit, not sweet. Sweet. And we don't have to do anything there. So this is going to simply go and check what this value is, and I think the best way to do that would be a switch. So let's go ahead and do SWITCH. So we're going to do a switch, and we're going to do a switch on suit weight. Suit weight, just like that. And then our cases will be 0 through 4. Now, we're not returning anything because this is going to be able to set these directly. In other words, we could have it return up here. Let me just think for a second, because if we do a return, now if we do a void, I think we're fine with this. Let's just try this. If we need to stick them as returns, we'll be able to do that. So we're going to go ahead and say set suit here. So we're going to say case 0. So if a 0 is passed, then what do we want to do? We want to say suit equals, and I don't know, let's start with hearts. All right, and then we do need the break, because otherwise it will just keep going down the list, and it could give us multiple, like if we did a 1 or something. If we don't do the break, it'll just keep going down the list. So it's always good to BREAK. Now this would be one advantage, this would be one advantage of actually having this have a return value. So actually if we set this to string, we could actually, not sting, we could actually set this so this is actually just returning hearts, RETURN, and then we actually don't need the break because it's leaving this method. I'm going back here, so we could actually do it like this and say value equals and set suit. Set suit like that and like that. And this way, the only difference, like I said, is this is simply making it so we don't have to have breaks. It's tiny bit less coding. Not really, as far as I know, it's not advantageous in any shape, way, or form. But let's just do it this way, since I've already structured it a bit that way. So case 1, will be return T-return. Boy, I can't type. Return. And let's say this will be spades, maybe. And it doesn't matter the order you stick these in at all. So here's case 2, and there's that, and this will be maybe diamonds or something. DIAMONDS, so something like that. And case. Now the one difference is, even though we know that this is always going to return one of these 3, the method itself doesn't know that, and so it's going to say, well, what if I get case 4? What do I do then? I'm not returning anything. So it's going to kind of have a hissy saying, there's a possibility I'm never going to return anything. So if we say return here and say clubs, like so. So, oh my gosh, I cannot type. Return. So you'll see it's still unhappy because it's going to say, hey, I'm not guaranteed that I'm returning something. So maybe just at the end of the switch, so if it actually, for some reason, it gets a value 5 or a 0 or a negative number, which it shouldn't, then let's just have a RETU return error. We should never ever see that, but that's going to make our method happy. So there we go. We've now done it so we can get a suit. We're going to do the same thing with the value. Or whoops, that is not the right one. You guys are probably yelling at me about that. Then we're going to do the same thing with this. We're going to have a equals set value. And do do that, and do that. So this will be different. So basically, actually, we don't always want to call this, because if we're past a value, an integer of 2 through 10, we don't need to send it into this method. So a good way to do this will probably be with an if. And let's say if the val weight, or the value weight is greater than 1, and the value weight, and it does VAL, the value weight is less than 11. So this means if it's within the range of 2 and 10, we want it to do something, right? And what we want to do is simply say value. So value equals val weight. Now we're going to get an error here because this is an integer, this is a string. As you can see here, we have our integer and we have the string. So a really quick way to convert this to a string is just append double quotes to it, and that will convert this to a string. It's not going to be like a, a 2 space, because we don't actually have a space in here. It's just a 2 quotes to say, hey, this is a string. So if the number is between 2 and the number is also between 10, we'll simply just say assign the value. We don't care about that. Now, if it's a 1 or it's a 11 or higher, then it's going to do this, which is going to say, let's see, so this is else, and we need to do that, and then we need to tab U in real quick, go to the end, hit enter, and that. So this is going to say we're only going to do our special method if it is not between 2 and 10. Hopefully that made sense. So let's go down here, and just to make this a little quicker, maybe we could do this, do a C here, and do a V here, and we'll call this set value. And the first thing is, if it returns a 1, this is going to be an ace, right? Because in our game, the value of an ace can actually be a 1 or a 14, because the king is a 13, so ace can be a 1 or it can either be the high or the low. In our game, it's going to be the low. Let's see, so then we want case 11, which would be a jack. Then we had case 12, which would be a queen. And finally, we would have case 13, which would be a king, a kinf. So there we go, there's that. Now all we need is ways of getting these values. So now when a card is generated in our deck, it's going to come and it's going to pass the values for the value and for the suit, and it's going to generate what our friendly names, I suppose, are for those. The other thing maybe we want to do is we want to do an override. Now we can use the override notation. Let's do this real quick. So if we use this just is kind of to help you see it as a coder that, oh yeah, I'm overriding something. I don't actually think it does anything. It doesn't error out if we don't have it, but we're going to override the PUBL at public. Sting, I don't know why I always miss the R. We're going to say public string and 2 string. So this is a method that is in the main object, or the object class, which every class is a member of the object class. Even though you don't see it up here saying that it extends it, if nothing is extended default here, it extends the object class. I think we've talked about that before. And there we go. And what we're going to do is say return, return, and we want to say maybe value plus of plus and suit. So anytime this is called, it's going to return, for example, king of hearts or king of spades or ace of spades or whatever, just to give a friendly way of doing it. So the other thing we're going to want to do is actually be able to get our values. Now, question is, do we need to ever actually get these values, because we're getting it as a string here? So I think all we really want to ever do is get the values for for the weights. I don't know, we could always come back later on and put them in if we need them. So let's see, so let's put these kind of in the, I like to keep them in the same order as they're here, so we have them backwards. So let's go ahead, do this real quick. Is that 2? Yes. So do that there. Go ahead, stick in a bunch of carriage returns here. Do that one there. So we have the value in suit right there. Then we have the value in suit right there. Now if I were really picky and just wanting everything to be so, I could also do this. So those are kind of in the same order. Really, it does nothing. It's more of just a structure thing. All right, so we're going to want to get our value weight, or our weight, our value weight. So we want to do PUBO public and return int, and this is going to be get VAL value WEIGHT. So there's get value weight. We don't need to do anything, and we're just RETURN VAL weight. So there's that one, and then we just want one more right here. We'll do public int get SUIT WEIGHT, just like that, and RETURN SUI suit weight. Perfect. And I suppose if we did want to say return just like the king, because if we're doing this, we're always going to get the value of the suit. So if we wanted to say you drew a king and not necessarily a king of clubs or something like that, then we could do it. I can't really think of anywhere where we'd want to do that specifically. All right, so we're at about 23 minutes. This is probably a good stopping point. I think our card class is complete. So what we have here is it's able to receive 2 integers, one for the suit, one for the value. It's able to convert those into friendly names for our user, and it's also able to get those friendly names and get the actual values or the weights of those values or of those variables, I guess. So I think that's good. In the next episode, what we'll do is probably work on the deck. This is where it's going to generate the actual deck. 52 cards in a deck, 13 of each suit, from ace to king. So we're going to have it generate that. Nice thing with for loops, we'll be able to do that in about 7 lines of code. It will be able to generate all 52 cards. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below. Excuse my raspy voice. I think I'm coming down with something. I'm going to grab some water real quick. Maybe it'll help. Did that help? No, not really. Anyway, like I said, be sure to leave a thumbs up down below if you enjoyed it or if you learned something. Be sure to tell all your friends, neighbors, families, and stuff about my channel. This one's kind of unknown, but let's see. I got sidetracked with all my raspy voice stuff. So comment, like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Check out my check out my other channels. On my T4zzTeaches channel, I am trying to get to 1,000 subs. I'm about halfway there. When I do so, I'm going to be giving away 56 games from my Steam inventory. So that should be really cool. So tell everyone you know about my channel and my Tasman channel. Have them check it out. If they like it, they can sub. And we'll be one step closer to reaching that goal. And that's it. Until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.